Hello, my delicious co-creators. Lilou here on the Juicy Living Tour. I'm actually in Paris today, and I have a very special guest, a special conversation. This is part of life, and I love it when life shows up this way. Thank you, Danielle, for showing up in Paris. Oh, my God.
Mon plaisir. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you, Lilou, for inviting me.
So this is awesome. You are actually quite something. It will be hard in one video to summarize all the knowledge that I have next to me. How can we say this? You're this author, teacher. You have worked for a long time with John Valo Melchizedek and still do. Tell us, how would you summarize your work, really, in a nutshell? Right? I mean, you are the author of this Now is Eternity.
Well, I think I'm a normal person.
I don't think you are.
You know what happened when I was in Tibet? The master told me we're sleeping. If I said, even in this moment, we think we are awake, but we are not. We woke up in the morning and the daily activities are covering our sleep. And I thought it's a joke. In that moment, I asked the master, Karma Dorje, I asked him, what are you talking about? We are awake. He said, no, you are sleeping. And he said, I will demonstrate to you. He said, close your eyes. So I closed my eyes and I fall asleep instantly. I was near him. He was exactly how you are. In my dream, he was telling me, touch me. So I touch him. In my dream, he's telling me, wake up now. I opened my eyes. I turned my face. He was smiling, exactly like you. He said, touch me now. I touch him. He said, do you feel any difference between your dreams and now? And I said, well, actually, no. So he said, you see, I'm right. You are dreaming. You don't understand. People around you are dreaming. And you know what happened? They kept me almost 3 months in that monastery, and they told me, whatever you see, you say, this is a dream. This is a dream, this is a dream, this is a dream, this is a dream. You see the food in front of you, you said, this is a dream. You see an apple, this is a dream. You see a person, this is a dream. And almost 3 months later, when they took me out of that exercise, I was in that small village. In Tibet, they don't have big villages. There were like 100 people around. And they asked me, look around you. And I saw the same people what I saw in 4 years. And these people look like under drugs, like they were, and I turned to Master. There were both of them, Karma Dorje and Tenzin Dorje. And I said, what's wrong with these people? I know them. They look like they're drunk. They said, no, you woke up. They are the same. So coming back to your question, I think I woke up a little bit more than other people. And I think each person in one moment will start to wake up. And I think maybe today in 2014, it's more than ever the time to wake up.
What do you call wake up? What is for you to wake up? What is awakening? Let's define it right now.
Awakening means you see, sense, and feel the reality. A lot of people think...
The real reality.
The real reality, let's put it like that. The real reality is not just this, you know? We see just this, but it's not just this. Around you there is an energy, which theoretically you should see it. Practically you don't see it because your pineal gland is blocked, and pituitary gland, right? So awakening means you see, sense, and feel the whole universe around you. You are not just like a robot. You know, it's funny, in Canada, when I stayed there a lot of years, right, in Canada, I was there and some of my friends, they just go to work. You know how? They have the car in their garage. From the house, they go in the garage, they take the car, highway, they go to work, they park the car under a big building with 20 levels. They go, they take the elevator, they work 8 hours, they go back in the car, they go to the supermarket, they park there, they don't even know there is a tree, right?
Métro, boulot, dodo in French. That's the expression.
Exactement. Exactly. So, and it's not just Canada, all over the world is happening this. People forget that there are trees. Yesterday, I told you, in the Parc Monceau, I saw this tree. I had tears in my eyes. I touch it, I kiss it, you know. I really felt I'm a tree. You know, that means you wake up. You feel you are the same with Mother Earth. You listen to Mother Earth. You speak with Mother Earth. You speak with people around you, and you enjoy exactly what is in this book now. Don't think at past. You know, people think that time is past, present, and future. It's not true. The time is just past and future. The present now is life. You understand me? It's a completely wrong definition of time. Time is just now. It's past. and the future. The present now it's life. So you have to be now, this is to be awake. Enjoy. You want to eat an ice cream? Eat an ice cream. You want to drink a beer? Drink a beer, but enjoy it. Feel it. Don't be a robot. That means to be awake,
So don't be too earthy, but too skyy. Because sometimes there's this problem with incarnating here on Earth. When we feel the tree, we become the tree, and then we don't function and don't, operate on a regular level.
That's a very good point. And you are right. A lot of people think you have to become spiritual. But in fact, what means spiritual? We remember in 1965, there was this great master coming from Japan, Suzuki. He was teaching humanity Zen system. And he said, by the way, where is the Zen, Salon Zen, right? It's coming from him. And he said, you don't need any technique. You should just surrender yourself in the moment. But Suzuki made a big mistake, because what he didn't tell to humanity, that he has thousands of lives behind him meditating, arriving at that stage. Of course you want to go in Carrefour, in supermarket, and buy something and to be in meditation. Can you do that? Well, it's a question mark. You need a technique. You think you don't need to meditate. You do need. I mean, it's nice to think, I'm listening to Suzuki, what he said, the Zen master. I don't need anything. You do need something. It doesn't matter if it's Tai Chi or Qigong or meditation of the heart or heart imagery, whatever, but do something. Don't wait. There is a proverb back in Carpathian Mountains, and I like this proverb. God is giving you, but doesn't put in your pocket. So you have to take and put it in your pocket, what God is giving you, right? So do something. So I'm coming back to your question. You have to do something. If you don't do something, your mind is going to the sky. You can lose your mind. You think a lot of my students, they say, I see this archangel around me and I said, close your eyes, go in your heart. Can you still see these images? No. I said, what do you see? They said, I see trees and green. It's correct, right? So all this imagination, whatever is coming to you from what you think is there is not, right? So go in your heart and see the real world. And this is really important,
There's no angels in the heart?
In the heart there are real angels. You have to make a big difference. You look around you, right? And you see a light, or you see something, or you go in your heart and you ask your higher self and you ask the angels to speak with you. And we have to understand there are entities around us, low-level entities. We don't interfere with them. Let them to live their life. But these entities, they can take different forms. So you have to be sure, you have to be clear what you are doing. It's real. I mean, all people, they say, I'm speaking with Archangel Michael and Jesus. That is very nice. But are you sure that happened? You have to go in your heart. You have to do a meditation. You have to be really grounded. You have to feel your body and feel the energy at the same time. You have to be 100% sure that that really happened. It is not just one of the other dreams. You remember?
Only the heart can sense that? So it's kind of like a scanner. I mean, it scans you. You scan it.
Let's put it like that. You have to be centered. There are 3 spheres, right? In Japan and Asia, they are centered here. They talk about this center, navel center. The Japanese talk about hara, right? In martial arts, especially when I teach Tai Chi, I tell them, breathe here, right in the navel. There is a second center. So the first center, by the way, is being. There is a second center, which is the heart. You can be centered in the being. You can be centered in the heart, which is feeling. There is a third center, which is very important too. People don't understand the center of the head. If you are centered in the head, you are knowledge. Doesn't matter where you are, being, feeling, or knowledge. Any point where you are centered there is giving you enlightenment. The great master, Zen master, are centered here. Jesus, Teresa de Avila, Mother Mary are centered in the heart. Krishnamurti, he is centered in the head, right? And in any place you are centered here or here or here is good. But you have to be centered. People, they think, I'm centered in my brain. But it doesn't work like that. If the fact that you know mathematics or physics doesn't mean you are centered in your brain. To be centered in your brain, your pineal gland and pituitary gland must be activated. And you should be right in the middle of this sphere, what we call halo. We see all this picture with sands, and you see this light around them. They already activate this, and this sphere is activated, right? So
And you activate, how do you activate that in one word? I know it might be a little bit complicated, but how does it open up, or is it spontaneous?
well, it is spontaneous, but you have to work it. This is very important. In martial arts, you activate the first one. And it's very important to understand. People think the heart sphere is the most important. It's not. When you are born, you are related with your mother through the womb to womb, through your being sphere, the first sphere. And we have to understand that. In fact, what happened, Osho said, and I agree with Osho, he said something very important. He said, all the other systems are bringing you from the heart, you go from the brain, you go to the heart, and from the heart, actually, you go back to the being where you were born. So, in fact, the heart, if you think, it's a bridge between brain and the being. So, it is spontaneous, you are right, but you need to do something, anything, do something. Close your eyes, do Kechare Mudra, put your tongue up, read a book, go to Louvre and see a beautiful picture, but do something which brings you back to the center, you understand? Whatever you like, do Tai Chi.
Is that alignment?
You mean the spheres, if they are aligned? Yeah. Well, once you are in one of the center, the other sphere align, and so you are, doesn't matter if you are in the being, you can feel, you are also in the feeling and also in the knowledge. Why they said all great masters are the same? Why they said Krishnamurti and Ramakrishna, they look in the eyes of each other 1 hour and they didn't speak anything. Why? Well, Krishnamurti was in the heart, in the head sphere, but Ramakrishna was in the heart sphere. And Ramakrishna even didn't know to write, by the way. He was just going and kissing Mother Earth. He said, I love you, Mother Earth, I love you, Mother Earth, I love you, Mother Earth. Krishnamurti was a genius. He would put 10 books and he would put on a table 10 books, open the pages, and he would read on diagonal from the first to the last one. He was a really genius, Krishnamurti. But he was perfectly centered in the head. The other one, Ramakrishna, was perfectly centered in the heart. So they stayed 1 hour, they didn't speak. Why? They didn't need to. They sent unconditional love. Both of them were centered. So their sphere were perfectly aligned. You think Krishnamurti was centered just in the head. It's not true. In the same time, he was here and here.
Very interesting. So I wanted to talk about the imagery, heart imagery. It's hard for me to say it. Say it.
Heart imagery.
Yes.
Heart imagery.
Because you have lots of it in there, but really all of the ones that you propose. Tell us why. I mean, what an ancient technique it is, and how you discovered it, and how important this is. Because this was a long time ago, and people used to practice that. Why?
When I was in Tibet, both great masters who worked with me, they told me, we're going to teach you a system, which is not even a system. It's a way of living. And I said, what are you talking about? I knew about Tai Chi and about Jesus meditation, and I knew about all this Buddha meditation and compassion and all this Dalai Lama. But they said, no, it's a very simple system. We'll give you a set of images, and based on this, all these images are going to change something in you. You will not even, suddenly I will give you an image, and suddenly you will feel this flash of energy, and you will feel like fire in you. Or I will give you an image and you will feel pain in your liver. Or I'll give you an image and you will feel pain in your hip. Or I'll give you an image and suddenly you lose completely, you don't know where you are. They said, your mental and emotional bodies are start to balance. Understand? So I asked, where is coming this system? What are you talking about? I never heard about it. And they said, well, I will tell you exactly. Almost 40,000, actually it's 39,500 years ago, how they wrote in the holy books, when the material sons and daughters of God, so-called Adam and Eve, came here to upgrade us, to help us, right? Whatever remained from their team, so-called Adamic race, they made their headquarters near Kapet Dag. Kapet Dag is an area, it's the border between Iran and Turkmenistan, right? There is a mountain there near Caspic Sea, right? That was the first headquarters of the Adamic race. We call it also violet or indigo race. They are not violet of the face or indigo. We're talking about the third eye. There's a reason we call them indigo rays, because the third eye was activated, the indigo, right, or violet. So in that time, they didn't know to meditate. They didn't have any system. The only system they knew, it was to give an image and through that image to work. Now, I knew that system because in 1991, 1992, I met a great master in Romania, Madame Ana. Ana, which in my opinion was a great master, it was a big avatar of light. She died in 2012. Anna, I saw an exercise. Somebody came, this man had infection to both eyes. 6 months, he went to all doctors. So I witnessed there something which blew my mind. Anna told him, sit down, close your eyes. See, sense, and feel that you walk in a forest. After that, she said, see, sense, and feel you take your eyes and go to a spring water. Wash your eyes. And that was all. And after that, she said, put your eyes back, open your eyes. She did 3 times this. This man, you know, all this infection on this yellow around his head disappeared. My jaw dropped. So in that time, I saw for the first time a demonstration of imagery. And it's you know why it works so well, imagery. You think this is an image with no life. It is exactly what people see here. Me and you has the same value. Any image you see, in fact, it's just an image. The brain cannot recognize an image from something else. The light comes now on my face, and this light reflects on the video camera as an image, but doesn't have any other value than this image. You understand me? If you realize that, actually you realize all images have the same power. So you can go in your brain and change an image and change your reality. Do you understand? So the great master knew about this change of images. And through heart imagery, what I've done then, what happened, 1 month, each day and each night, they will wake me up and said, close your eyes. See, sense, and feel, for example, you are swimming in the ocean. Dolphins are around you.
Nice, yes.
That's very nice, yeah. And after that, they will let me for a minute, because heart imagery works in a very interesting way. You know, meditations, the more you do, the better you are. Imagery, the less you do, the more powerful you are. Because what happened, you are left...
You mean quick ones?
Quick ones. Your left brain start blah, blah. I give you an image, for example. See yourself, you are in the ocean. Usually in 30 seconds, your brain start to ask, am I in the ocean? What color is the water, you understand? So a master in imagery should know exactly when he gives you the next image, so you don't have time to blah, blah. So you can keep a group of students for, let's say, 5 or 10 minutes in a different image, and they don't have time to think. They are just in intuition, and that's outstanding, because each moment we have at least 10 in a second. They demonstrate in Harvard University. You have at least 20 thoughts in 1 second. Imagine you can stay 10 minutes, no thinking. It's outstanding. So that's the reason this system is so powerful. So they were teaching me for 1 month different exercises. So when I came back, I couldn't, you cannot do a workshop 1 month. Nobody would stay. So I had to split in 3 categories. One clear category is cleaning the past. Heart imagery, cleaning the past. The second category is healing and emotional clarity. And the last one, probably the most powerful, union with God. So I split...
Union with God.
Union with God. So...
how do you get there? What kind of imaginary images get you there?
You should do it.
I know, I want to. I mean, I'm like,
the next union with God will be in Cyprus. Maybe you have time to pass by. So...
when?
October something. I'll tell you. I should see in my schedule. So actually, after that, I was going all over the world, and I was teaching a meditation day, which is pure Tibetan meditation, glazing and all this stuff, and heart imagery. Now, heart imagery, especially after 2012, is very powerful, because we are in feminine energy, you understand? You don't want, your right brain's intuition started to work. It's not something what we choose. Mother Earth changed completely the energy. It's not a choice. People already, you see people on the street, they have problems, they have headache. Some people faint and go down because, we struggle. We don't like the new energy because the new, it's funny. I was in Turkey a few years ago, and they invited me to speak at the Chamber of Commerce, right? The House of Commerce there, the business people. And it was end of 2012. They said, we cannot do business anymore. Whatever we schedule doesn't work. I said, congratulations, exactly. Because it's a new energy, you understand me? Why all these big companies, which are able to change now, in this moment, any products, they are successful? Because this is feminine energy, you understand? You don't fight. You go with the flow. Whatever you decide today, tomorrow might not work. You should decide, like, I don't know what you decided today. I came here, and here we are, You didn't think, is Daniel coming here today? No. I just...
You showed up.
Exactly. And we have this thing, In fact, this is how feminine energy is working. It's giving you what you need in that moment, in that time.
I'm amazed by it, and I think a lot of people are, because at the same time our mind tells us, but this is impossible to function in this way, or for big corporation to just be in the moment. There needs to be some plans. There needs to be, is there a blueprint even? Is there a destiny? Is there something already written? How does this work then?
Let's put it like that. We are a generation of sacrifice. I will tell you why. We are born in a masculine energy, but we will die in feminine energy. Because the energy changed after 2012, right? So, in a way, we are the happiest generation on this planet, because 26,000 of years, right? The Earth is moving in masculine energy, male energy, and now we are in this. Actually, we are not 100% in feminine. It's a transit period, right?
We're hybrids, yeah.
Correct. So it's not easy. I understand my friends. They said, I don't know, Daniel. I was driving the car. It was funny. A few days ago, I was speaking with somebody in Wales. I was driving the car and I forgot the road, where I'm going. It's feminine energy, You need to be in this moment. Maybe you need to stop and drink some spring water. Maybe you need to look a little bit at the sky to reconnect with yourself. And after that, start driving the car again, Don't be a robot, And people don't understand that. It's not just they don't understand. Some of them understand. They don't want to change, you understand? And for these people, it's going to be painful.
Is that the ego?
Ego is always, but sometimes ego is good. Imagine a child, if he wants to put the hand in an electric plug. Ego says, don't do it because you will die, right? So you have to have ego for what you need. In order to go somewhere, you need ego, right? You need to use your left brain, you need this. So, but the question is, how much? Is ego just 5% and heart 95%? If that's happening, it's perfect, right? Do you think Krishnamurti didn't use his ego? He did, right? But he was traveling, right? You need to go in the airports. You need to have a schedule. You need to have a ticket, right? But how much you are using your ego? That is a question. And in what way? Are you using in a constructive way? Or you are using destructive way? Look what's going all over the world. Wars and all this stuff, right?
And the ego tends to create those agendas. I mean, or those plans. Those company creates those could be creating those plans before from the ego perspective. Yeah. Now it has to change. I mean, how do we actually live that future that we want to live? But though there is this now that is eternal.
It is very simple, and I will tell you. I remember I saw something very interesting. They were talking about the main student of Buddha, Ananda. Ananda, right? Ananda, for 40 years he was near Buddha. But in one day it came somebody from a corner of India. And he was at the Buddha feet there, and Buddha just touched his head, right? This new person. And this guy started to dance and was singing. He became enlightened. Ananda, who was near Buddha, he said, Buddha, what are you doing? I'm from 40 years near you. You touch my head hundreds of times, and nothing happened to me. How that's possible? I'm telling you how it's possible. It's called surrender. Ananda never surrendered to Buddha. His ego made this like a sort of wall, right? And because he never surrendered to Buddha, he was not... You know, the master is like a mountain, and you are like a valley. The energy comes to you like a river. It cannot be the other way. You cannot be the mountain and the master the valley. The energy, you understand? It doesn't. So you have to surrender. Ananda was not able. He was 40 years near Buddha. Well, so what? Nothing happened, you understand me? He couldn't receive. And in fact, that's the biggest sin of the ego. It stops you to surrender in front of the master. You remember Gurdjieff, the great master Gurdjieff. I love him. He has this... He used to have this exercises. He would say, stop. Whatever you are doing, stop. And you think it's easy. It's not. Because we are like robots. We watch TV, we watch computer. We are not able to stop to connect with ourselves. And Gurdjieff was telling to his students, they were doing something around the house. He was going out of the temple and he was screaming, stop, 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 stop. And all of them, they had to stop just for 10 seconds. You should not even breathe. You are like a statue. You stop. And after that, the master said, go ahead, you know. But that moment, he will break your ego, you understand me? You would surrender to the master. And in fact, that's the biggest problem with the ego. We cannot surrender. We cannot abandon. We believe we are higher than a great master, and we are not. We have to follow a path. We have to do what they are doing.
Can the master be life? Can we surrender? Is that a matter of surrendering to life then?
The biggest great master is life, right? Now, we have to understand, life is universe. Universe is God, right? So if you can surrender to life, if you can look at a flower and don't take it, don't kill that flower, just to look at that beautiful flower and just enjoy that flower, that's life. I mean, you know what's funny? In 2012, I was in Yucatan, and I met the chief of Mayan elder, Don Pedro Pablo Chu. And we had this meet, it was 2012, December 21st. Beautiful, right? But he said something really nice, Don Pedro Pablo Chu. He said, what is doing a small bird in the morning when she wakes up? And people, they were thinking what she's doing. I said, okay. And after that, he asked a lady, what are you doing when you wake up in the morning? She said, I'm going to the kitchen, I put my coffee. He said, okay, let me tell you what a bird is doing each morning when she wakes up. She's singing. To whom? To God. So if a small bird, she's able to sing to God, you understand me? We are not able to do that. We are not able to understand exactly what you said. Life. All is around. All, you know, you cannot wake up in the morning and sing, you know, I'm happy, I'm now.
So that gratitude is that song?
Gratitude is the most important thing. If you don't have gratitude, and if you are not grateful, I'm grateful I'm here, you know, I'm really grateful, you know, I'm grateful I'm here. It's such a beautiful place. We are walking on the street, and we felt all this energy, you know, and we are grateful. I'm grateful I'm breathing, you know, and I had some water now in this place, and I was drinking, and I said, thank you, I love you, I love you, I love you. I was drinking that water, and I told to the water, I'm grateful you are here in my mouth, and you go in my body, you know. We forgot to be grateful. We take all as granted, like somebody has an obligation to give us something. Well, it's not working like that, you know. You have to be grateful, and abundance come to you. A lot of people said, I don't have money, and I don't have that, and I don't have that. But in fact, you don't attract it, you understand me? Because you are not open. You should be open. You should open your heart, and it's like you drop a small stone in a lake, and all the ripples are going all over, right? And we are not able to do that, right?
Beautiful, Daniel. This was a delicious interview. I'm very honored to have interviewed you. This is the book. This is your latest book that is available now. It was before available on ebook, but now it's print.
Yes. I printed some of them, and I'm looking for a publishing house. I hope I'll find a good one, and I can.
Yes. I hope. I wish you the best, and I would love to interview you again.
Thank you very much, Lilou. It's a pleasure to be here. I love you.
Thank you. Much, much love, my delicious co-creators. We love you. We send you beautiful energy from amazing France. France, such a delicious country, isn't it?
I love it.
Mwah. Big, big kisses. Thank you for sharing this video. Like them, share them. We love you. Bye.